time-space reality. Such things are possible in that experience. But the idea is to learn through that experience that you actually don't have to suffer, that you can remember you are creating your life, and you don't have to be the victim of belief systems or definitions that say you are out of control.
The basis of your existence is freedom. You all have free will. So you're free, and we realize many people would disagree with us, and many don't see it like this, but you're all free to do whatever you want. You're all free to be whatever you want. You're all free to have whatever you want.
There are no victims here. There are only willing participants. So when you are allowing others to subjugate you, the moment you stop, you see that you have power. So the whole thing was set up. This reality is showing you that you have power.
Even though many of you choose to shackle yourselves and to curtail your freedoms, that is a choice too. But you are free.
About 15 years ago, I started having some visions, and I didn't know what they were. So I started doing some research on past lives, and I came across channeling, and it was the early 90s, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anybody who did it, and I just knew it was something I was supposed to be doing. So I found a couple books and did some of the exercises and had really visceral responses, but nothing really happened. I was trying to channel verbally, and my limbs would tingle and my eyes would water, and so I would try it periodically and kind of put it aside and come back to it, and took a meditation class and did some other things and did some work on myself. And about a year after I started trying, I sat down one day and just knew I was supposed to have a pencil and paper, and started to do automatic writing, and it's kind of developed over the years.
What really started me on the path of channeling was reading the book Opening to Channel by Sunea Roman and Dwayne Packer. I've read the book several times and followed their procedures, and the end result of that was the spirit guide came to me. She appeared to me as an American Indian woman, and her name was Tamara. And so I channeled her for a few years. I was aware, sort of on the periphery of my awareness, this male Indian. I didn't know who he was, or I didn't know if it was real or if it was my imagination or where it was coming from. I didn't really trust myself as a channel then. And so it was kind of a scary process for me in the beginning, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. Mm-hmm. But I knew there was something there that was beyond me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have several families, as many of us do, and I have more than one marriage. The wife that I have now, I was introduced to in the recording studio. And I was on my third Cryon book at the time. And so we dated for a long time before I ever opened my mouth of what I was doing. And I remember the day when we were going to go have spaghetti, and we never made it to the spaghetti place because I brought my books. I said, it's now or never, she's got to know, because I felt my heart, what was going on, and I said, I've got to, it's either make it or break it right now. So I brought my books to her house, and we never got out of there, because she actually said, she took it all in, and she said, I'm going to have to think about it. She read the books and called me up, and she says, this is everything I've always believed. Wow. So we had a good meeting and melding at that time.
At a certain point, she actually said, well, she'd like to hear, what Tobias has to say. So we sat down here in the living room and did our first channel with Tobias talking. And at a certain point, I started working with a psychologist who had some tough clients, difficult issues, and it would be the psychologist, myself, and of course Tobias. And I really enjoyed that. It was dealing one-on-one in a very intense way. But then as word about that got out, then people wanted to do it in a group.
You, the psychologist, Tobias, and a client.
And a client, right. And at some point, we literally started here in our living room at home, and just a small group of about a dozen people. And it's now grown into what it is.
I worked with a psychologist, Dr. Margot Chandley, and she would work with me to help me practice going into trance and let the entities talk, and it felt very natural to me all the way along because I was always having the reassurance from my telepathic connection with my unseen friends that everything was going along as scheduled. And then I would get updates and recommendations and from them and things I could do to prepare, and it all felt really, really comfortable and very, very aligned. Very, very nice. Plus I had this wonderful psychologist that I could talk with about it and debrief about it, so I never felt odd or unusual. I know that some people have had it be very strange and unsettling, and it was never that way for me at all.
I was actually introduced to a channel who was, doing public sessions at the time. And I went and I listened to the entity coming through that channel for several months and thought that the information had value. It was interesting, seemed to be helpful to people who were asking questions of the entity. But at one point during listening to that entity, they actually offered to teach a class on channeling, and I went into the class not because I wanted to become a channel. That was the farthest thing from my mind. I just wanted to further my research. I wanted to see how something like channeling could be taught, because I didn't understand that that could be done. Under one of the guided meditations that the entity was giving, I received what felt like, what I experienced to be a telepathic contact. I decided, well, whether it's really another entity or whether it's just a portion of my consciousness, what I did understand is that channeling itself is an actual altered state. And in that altered state, people have the ability to access information that they might not otherwise be able to in their normal daily waking state. And so in knowing that that information might be able to give people a different perspective on their lives, might be able to help them make the kind of changes that they wanted in their lives constructively, I decided that was reason enough to go ahead and experiment and see how far the channeling would go.
When you come to Earth and you embody yourself in this thing called biology, your physical body, you tend to lose the remembrance of who you truly are. Part of it, I guess you could say, is a good thing, because it allows each of you to truly experience what it is like to live in an illusion.
Because you have been cocooned, all right, isolated. Your history has been rewritten, so that you don't remember who and what you truly are.
So it's so important to start waking up to the truth of one's own nature. And the truth of one's own nature is what one finds when you go within and discover the connection to all and to God. God is all that is, that lies deep at the heart of the true self.
If it was intuitive of what you had going on this planet, we might as well just turn on the lights and everyone goes home. You see, there must be secrets. There must be an overlay. There must be a veil. There must be the predetermined energy that says, can't be so. This creates a little mountain to climb, does it not? Those who are watching this now, be aware that this is part of the mountain to climb. For it has to do with your belief, what you've been told,